Hello everyone. I'm glad to welcome everyone at the Mobidictum Conference at our panel discussion approach, processes and methods of creating hyper-casual games. How hyper-casual games are truly interesting for you, such as for us. The panel discussion, in my opinion, brought together a very good team of industry experts. Please let me introduce them. Volkan, Erinç, publisher manager from Line Studios. Berkay, Doğan, Uslu.
Yeah, good enough.
Publishing lead from BoomBit. Please welcome. And Kemel, Levent, publishing manager team leader from Supersonic. I'm Eugene. Today I will be moderator of this panel discussion. I am organizer and CEO of the Halic Congress Conference. It's online, offline events which is dedicated to the all mobile gaming and mostly with the focus of the hyper-casual. So I'm a bit know about the hyper-casual direction. Let's start with the basics. I think it might be interesting to starting from some basics things to figure out what the kind of the hyper-casual games you need to create, and let's answer the first questions. So the hyper-casual game, what should it include for the first test, for the first prototype? By your opinion of your company. So let's discuss that.
Should I go first?
Yeah. Welcome.
So it actually depends on what metrics are you looking to check, right? So if you're checking only the marketability, then the CPI should be your focus. But in the long run, the CPI don't make a hit or launch game, right? So you need to test the game from the beginning with an idea of how you can monetize and to turn this prototype into product in the future. So even if it's the first test, even the first idea, a glimpse of idea, you should also be considering how you can monetize and turn this one into a product. So that's basically, I believe, we should include in the first test.
Which KPI do you look for at the beginning?
In the beginning, it all depends again on your business model, right? So whether if you are looking for market awareness, or if you are looking for to hit the top charts, or if you are looking for profit, right? So what we are looking is to profit. So we are checking the data in terms of understanding how we can turn this one into a profitable game. So this is our main focus, validating and setting the KPIs on our side.
Yeah.
What kind of strengths you have, or what kind of things you need to improve, it depends what you are looking for. So for the very first test, as Berkay mentioned very well, CPA is not the metric that we can trust till the end. So that's why when we are creating your very first prototype, you should check the genre first, you can understand what kind of metrics, what kind of content we need to create. For example, if you are testing another game or if you are testing a puzzle game, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to create same amount of content for two different genres. So it really depends what you are doing. But again, as you mentioned, you cannot just trust some metrics. For sure, you should check at least very primitive engagement metrics, and we can discuss further what are these very primitive engagement metrics like respective conversation.
Okay, I totally agree with you guys, of course, but again, when we do the initial test, I believe the CPI is very important, and this is one thing that we look into it first. And we believe to get like lower CPI, of course we need the correlation between the in-game metrics like the playtime and then retention, but I don't believe to work on a game for a long time as prototype and then kill it in 3 days. So I would suggest probably working on enough content to create creatives to get like lower CPI and then work on the title if it's cool.
Great. By the way, I have 2 tricky questions. The first one is, are you testing, who is testing by CTR or CPI? Is the CTR is still alive tests or not?
I don't do that. So I don't trust CPI at all, so I don't trust CPI.
Okay.
It's always a combination, right? So of course the CPI is one of the base metrics that we are looking for, but in the end you need to check the other metrics as well, such as CTR and the CPMs at that point, right? So it all becomes a big pile of dust, and you need to check it in every detail of it.
Because I know that different publishers have different approaches in terms of testing this. Some of them prefer the CTR test like a year or 2 years ago to test very fast your idea. So this was the question. And another tricky question is the engagement or CPI. Both, of course, both, but if we need to choose.
Yeah, you can't choose, right? So if you would have to choose between attention and playtime, I mean, you can't decide which one you get. Of course, ideally, you would love to have both, but in that case, if you have one, what I would do is basically to develop and work on the other side as well. Right?
Yeah. Focusing on, if you see like a low CPI but not good in-game metrics, then you would definitely focus on the in-game metrics and try to balance it out, because definitely you need the correlation.
Because when it started, it was a big rally to find the low CPI and then scale it as fast as you can. And right now with the low CPI is just one of the metrics which is good, but it's not enough for the scaling, because then it starts for the scaling. It's really important the engagement. So I see that how to the direction goes that sometimes the good CPI is not like all the hit, that's for sure, but sometimes the bad CPI but great retention, it's more percentage that it become a hit.
Yeah. So that's actually how we evolve right now as a whole hyper-casual industry, right? So as you said, the CPIs are changing, markets and trends are always changing. So we need to adapt in a parallel way with that. So if you are having a higher CPI ratio, and then we should definitely increase and focus more on the engagement side, the game metric side of those games.
That's what I'm saying. From the reverse test, we should at least check the very primary engagement metrics. And imagine you have a game, high retention and the session time or some of the other engagement metrics, and low CPIs. I'm sure we have some cases that you have a very low CPI, about second or third or fourth test, or when you feel that you are very close to launch the game, not just in the Facebook but other resources. So CPI is saturated, right? I'm sure you have those kind of cases. So if you have a high engagement game, it will give you more flexibility. You know, even if your CPI is saturated on the way, maybe they will make less money. It's possible, but it will not be able to launch the game. That's why from the very first test, the primary engagement will be very important success factor for, I think, for the rest of the FDC on the next.
Like to building the game, thinking about the monetization on later stages, it's very important.
So let's continue to talk about that. So what criteria should it lead to a global launch?
I can start with this. Two key points for this question, I think. One is to create like two things. One is the successful similar, like checking successful similar titles in the market and creating something similar, adding two like different core mechanics or combining two successful core mechanics in the title. This is like one of them. And the second one is the invention, creating something unseen, like never seen something that, like for example, a Supersonic games like Reach. It's something that like wasn't exist, and it was something like a new idea. So I think this tool is very important.
For me, it's going to be a repeat of myself, but it's a profit, right? When you are doing the global launch, we enjoy doing games. We enjoy giving people having a fun time, but it's a business and we want to make money. So the first criteria definitely would go for the profit side, but to do that, to increase that profit, it's the fun part actually, the global launch phase, because you have all the advantages with the larger scale, and you can do the ABs more comfortable. You can do the creative search. You definitely need to do the creative search, because the more you are running the campaigns, the CPIs will be celebrated as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, the business answer is that both publishers should have a vision for the game. If they don't have a vision, so there is no chance they can proceed acting with the game. And I'm assuming that global knowledge doesn't mean that just carrying the game from the developer account to the publisher account, right? Actually, start after that. So if your vision means that if you have a proper strategy for A/B testing, if you have a proper strategy, keep the CPI stable possible, or if you have a proper strategy to cope with the industry changes or the general changes, then it means that you will have a successful global launch. Otherwise, the global launch just means that carrying this from slow developer account to publisher developer account, and I'm sure that none of us are looking for something.
Great, thank you for the answers. Let's start talking about the creating the game from the scratch, from the zero. I think it will be helpful for especially the small teams, and maybe helpful for the already mature teams from hypercasual. So creating an idea for the game. Let's talk about the ideas, how to find the right idea, maybe some resources, what to research. Sometimes maybe to combine the game. What is your recommendation? How to find the right idea to start into creating the game?
I can start, I guess. So in the real world, actually, we are all consumers, right? The first thing I would do while I'm doing an ideation session for myself is to put myself into the customer's eyes, right? Because we are trying to reach the mass audience out there, and to do that, we all use social media, right? So actually, most of the things that we are looking for is there. Because we are a fast-paced industry, we are looking for the mass audience, so the social networks is our first thing. And imagine yourself just scrolling down the Instagram or other social medias. How many seconds do you look into the sponsored ads, right? Just a little tiny bit of time. So the first thing I would say in the ideation side is that catching that user in that glimpse of 3 seconds or up to 5 seconds, right? So your idea should be catchy to eye. This is the first step. But while doing that, the most important thing I believe is not to skip the remaining part of the game. So you should always come up with at least a rough plan how to build that game in a longer session and play time. Right? Because you can catch the CPI, but as I mentioned earlier, we are not looking only for the CPI, we are looking for a launch and a mid game, right?
Yeah, for me, it's actually ideation start with not the market facts. I think first you should forget about the market dynamics, what's trend and everything. You should first focus on you and your team. So you should understand what's your strength and what kind of games you can create. Let's say the arcade idle games are trend right now, but you're not capable of doing arcade idle games, the result will be failure. And I'm sure you are investing so much time, you are working at 24 hours, so no one wants to fail, right? That quickly. So that's why just forget about the market, just focus on the team, what kind of people you have. If you are good artists, if you are good at 2D, 3D, or puzzle games, or other genres, first find your strengths. And then I think you can focus on the market itself. And I think for that, the key factor is that not just for the gaming, just overall success in this century, you should know how to search, right? Let's say, I'm not very good at it, actually, I know nothing, but if you are stuck with Unity, you are just doing a very cool search, right, on YouTube or Google, everything, and you can find what you are looking for. I think same for the ideation, you can just know how to search, not using the traditional channels, like Sensor Tower, Apple, or, the TikTok or Instagram, I mean, those kind of sources, but you should learn how to search according to your needs, but first start with your team and what's your strength, what you can do good, and the trends coming after that.
I really support Volkan's idea. By the end of the day, it's really depending on the studio and to find. There are a couple of ways, of course, to find a viral trend, or by seeing on TikTok or on social media. But by the end of the day, it's very important, as he says, to understand your strengths and your capability to work on a title.
Got it. Great. So we are know the idea. For example, we choose some interesting mechanics or interesting idea. In your opinion, which genres are more promising for the hyper-casual games market? In your opinion, I have a spoiler. I think it's runners.
I think for us, everything is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we believe it's marketable and if we believe like this, if this title will stand in the market for a long time, I think there's no specific subgenre that exists for now, but we see different kind of behavior for users. If you take an example of a hybrid game or idle arcade, we see less users, but these less users bring in almost the same revenue. So it's really depending on the subgenre.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know answer for this question, to be honest, because this industry is very dynamic, especially this application world. So even if I give the answer today, this answer will be relevant tomorrow. So I think we should just again focus what's your screen, like what we can create, because the market will needs different kind of games all the time. Again, I can give you an answer for today, but the answer will be relevant tomorrow.
Just to add, my colleagues here, it's also clever, in my opinion, to choose the right genre for your idea as well, right? Because you can have an idea, but you can execute it in different mechanics, right? So while doing that, choosing the right genre is also important, and it can bring a lot of difference for the game.
Great, thank you for your answers. Then let's discuss about your recommendations when creating a game prototype. What it should include. Of course, it depends, but
You answer behalf of me, so I don't know.
So usually, like for example, like I'm a gaming studio and like creating the games and come to you as a publisher and wants to create the games, and which criteria or like points should be at the could include in my game, like to test that idea, for example.
I think so. Since we talked about the CPI and it's getting harder to find it, right? Mm-hmm. So while doing the first test, we should also consider that, right? So and we need to analyze the game, even though the CPI is not great but decent. So, and to do that, we definitely need some playtime, gameplay length in the game, so we can analyze it. Because otherwise, we are blind, right? We're just checking the CPI and the CTI, and if it's just a one-level game, how can you understand if it's going to be good in terms of in-game metrics or not? You just and then if you trust the CPI, you may waste your days, maybe weeks, to develop that game. And if the in-game metrics don't come out as good, then you will just lose time. And in our industry, time is our most essential strength, right?
Usually, is it usually about creating the 10 levels? It's enough for and then loop them, and you will get approximately engagement and play time.
I think we call this to have enough levels, I would say, to create creators in the beginning, to see the CPI. But meantime, as he said, of course, you need to see the feature too. You can't just rely on the CPI. You have to have a core game. Yep.
Yeah, I think you can dig a bit what was primary engagement right here. Because it really depends on the game, as you said, on the genre and what kind of game you are developing. But we can measure level completion even from the very first test. Like even if you measure like first 3 levels, it will give you some kind of idea, right? For example, if the completion rate very low from the second level, it can be related to, there can be major bug we didn't realize, or it can be about the engagement of the core mechanism, it can be about everything. So it doesn't mean that having a low day 1 CPI will be the end of the game in terms of engagement if you have a very high completion rate for, let's say, level 5. So that's why you need to check like session time, completion rate, the one retention, at least those metrics on the very first day. I know about different approaches, and I know these approaches evolve and change all the time, but as an overall recommendation, I still recommend just track everything you can from the very first test. And it will give you the right idea about how to proceed, because again, if you talk, come back to the conversation, we cannot just try CPI even when the very first test. And secondly, if you have a feeling that you can publish the game, then you have a chance. So if you don't trust the product you are testing, then probably it's not wrong about that. I'm not talking about the amount of content, I'm not talking about the quality and everything. So if you are fine with the quality of the first product, so it means that you are on the right track.
Also, I think it's very important to know how to kill the game. Like sometimes you feel like emotional and you can't kill the game very quick, but as we say, it's very aggressive, and sometimes we need to say, okay, this game doesn't have potential.
You should have the power to...
And move on to the next prototype.
So this is the next question, is prototyping timelines. So what is the best recommendation?
I think again, depending on the subgenre, but we believe 1 week to 2 weeks to creating prototypes is okay time. And of course, for complex titles like for idle arcade or simulations, it can take up to 2 weeks, even a bit more.
Gotcha. We have lack of time.
So I think we can answer for this question if you want, like the length of the production for the prototype. I think the very first prototype, the time is not very important. If you are fine with the idea, if you think the idea is very unique. But what matters is that after the first test. So if you have a promising KPIs for the game, let's say CPI or engagement metrics, then you need to be very quick about the next iterations, next A/B tests. And it's not depend of the quality of your developers, quality of your artists, will depend on if you have some concrete plan before this. So if you have a plan, you can easily execute this plan together with the publishers out, and then you can make the tests very quickly. You can skip this work or not, and then you can either publish the game or kill it. So that's why, for me, the first prototyping time is not very important. If you have a very promising idea, very new plan, but what matters is that the rest of the time after the very first test, if the game progresses. But apart from that, I agree with you. We should also know when to kill the game, so otherwise it can be also time consuming for all this.
Gotcha. So my last question is general guidelines for creating hypercasual games. just your recommendations to the hypercasual studios, maybe some tips.
I can start with that, if that's okay with you as well. So, my main thing, so we start with the ideation, right? That is our first step, and that is our base. So we need to create our base in a solid way, and to do that is we need to think about how we can launch this game, right? Okay, we're going to do a first initial test right now, but if the metrics are good, how we can proceed developing the game, how we can turn this one into a product, into a global launch. So this is the main thing that I would suggest to all of you and to my colleagues and co-workers as well. So please plan how you can monetize the game, where you can put the interstitials, where you can put the RVs, how you can increase the playtime, how you can convince player to open that game the next day, right? Because it is one of the hardest things to do, to create retention. So if you think, at least have a rough opinion how to do that, if the CPI comes up, the road can be a lot easier for all of us, right? For you, for developers, and for us as well. Because I know that from the developer side as well, if you have a good code base, everything goes well as well, right? So it's the same thing. The idea should be able to build upon itself.
Yeah, definitely need a roadmap,
Yeah.
like to see every steps in the future, what it might be and where it might be like needed. It definitely needs to be thinking as detailed.
Yeah, I mean, my answer would be the same the previous one. First, I think you should focus on your weakness and strengths. And also, you can act like publishing manager, also part of the team. Maybe you can also benefit from him or her to understand what's your weakness and strength, and also what is his weakness and strength. So then you can create a complete team. And if those weaknesses is very important, let's say, if you're creating an engagement is our weakness, so it's a red flag, it's a big problem. And you need to solve this problem. But if your weakness is not creating, let's say, another game, it's an actual weakness. Just try to avoid from doing another game. So I think first you understand what's your strengths and weaknesses. And second, if the weaknesses are vital for the rest for the studio or not. And third, again, the search and be on top of the market. What's going on now? Understand dynamics. Just be ready for the next changes. And be open-minded for all kind of collaborations and feedbacks, like within the team and also, your publishers and other stakeholders.
Thank you for the advices. We're ending. By the way, for the all hypercasual studios who is looking for the new partners for the publishing, here is the right people sitting there. Help them and speak with them about cooperation, and wish you success. Thank you for the